A new humanity would rise from the approaching long night. This is a quote directly from Albert Rader Rosartre, the pioneer of Rosarism. Who would have thought a game about guns personified as big booba robot girls would be so enthralled with a political thriller, and then go in depth about nationalism and authoritarianism? The scariest part about Girls Frontline is that these political themes can be reflected on real life. So I actually ran a poll on my channel, which got about 500 votes. The question is, do you agree with Rosarism in the context of Girls Frontline's history and setting? Before I reveal this, let's first define what Rosarism is about. Rosarism is the pledge to dissolve all borders and form a global government that protects and serves humanity. In other words, it's the melting pot theory at its most extreme. If all nations come together and form one global nation, leaders will be able to serve their people with a more united interest. In the context of Girls Frontline, it's been shown multiple times that even in the worst case scenarios, the nations will always try to find a way to one-up each other. This will often come at the expense of their own people. The unfortunate part about this is there are people who are willing to help each other, but they are the ones not in power. The ones who are in power will often suppress the truth or oppress the people, or both. Rosartre witnessed so much of this during the Bayland Island incident. To learn about that entirely, you can watch this video. But the big theme about Rosarism is not about fighting for the present, but instead fighting for the future. This is a double-edged sword, because fighting for the future means ignoring the plights of the present. You can often justify ignoring people who need help right now if you feel your efforts are better served to a higher calling. Ironically, this is the eternal flaw of Rosarism, and every group of Rosatrists have this. The URNC, Paradis, and even the Antarctic Union share these issues. Before I go further, let's reveal the poll. At 490 votes, 33% agrees with Rosarism, and 67% disagrees. I was actually kind of surprised to see how dominant the votes towards no were, but the comments made me understand why that was the case. The top comment by Belsa Cat gives some pretty good reasoning, though there is an issue with it. You're free to read it for yourself, as I will just summarize it. Basically, the comment states the question is very nuanced and a simple yes or no does not suffice. It's a very idealistic vision of how the world should operate, but the big problem is getting to that point. Griffin Lyons believes the only way Rosarism can be achieved is by killing those who don't fall in line, while the Beaconists, which would eventually turn into the Antarctic Union, chooses to isolate themselves with the belief that the rest of humanity will die off. So the question is less of do you support Rosarism and more of which type of Rosarism would you support. Now, the issue with this comment is the misinterpretation that Commander and Angelia are also Rosarists. This is actually not the case, as they both find the ideology impossible to achieve without sacrificing innocent lives. So instead of trying to change the world, Commander and Angelia choose to fight the evils of the current world in order to make it better. A better third option to look for is actually Paradis, as everyone involved are also Rosarists, though their method is taking that ideology to its most extreme, where they want to literally destroy the current world so humanity can be reborn with a clean slate. So most people would agree that Paradis is obviously wrong, but in the end, they're objectively still following the ideals of Rosarism. The rest of the comments that disagree with Rosarism follow a similar theme to the top comment. It's a good ideology on paper, but the logistics seem impossible. More importantly, one commenter points out, what government would be benevolent enough to follow what Rosartre truly wanted, which is for the safety and prosperity of humanity? This particular point is echoed across nearly all the comments on this side of the aisle. And this is, what I feel anyway, is the most natural response to Rosarism, especially if one is already living in a first world country. First world governments are usually engaged in politicking and grifting. There's a reason why people say never trust a politician. Not only are they easily corruptible, but there is never going to be just one man who rules everything. One of my favorite quotes of all time is, "Where does real power lie? The power behind the power." This is a line from the TV drama House of Cards, where in that moment, the President of the United States realizes his own power means nothing if he doesn't have the support of the ones who truly matter. While some would optimistically think it's the people, it's not. The people that truly matter are the ones who can actually get things done. For example, if the president wants Congress to pass a bill, then it's very likely they would have to do negotiations with several people behind the scenes and get things done. But there are layers upon layers behind this as well, especially when money and logistics get involved. An example of this in Girls Frontline is Javier Witkin. The man is the CEO of a manufacturing company. He is no politician, but IOP's influence is so large that Javier is considered a valued Rosartrist. After all, he literally provides a constant supply of weapons to multiple groups. This means he has enough hard power to affect the decisions a government makes. If the government doesn't play ball with him, he has a number of methods to influence or force a change within the government. Chairwoman Ulrich is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Frankly speaking, she embodies the heart of Rosartrism. She prioritizes the people over her own life, to the point where she's willing to put herself in danger if it meant staying true to her beliefs. This leads to the people deeply loving her ideals, and she has an overwhelming amount of support. This is an example of soft power, but the ones who disagree with her really disagree with her, and she became the #1 target to kill. Even though she is genuinely a good person with agreeable ideals, her soft power is far more limited compared to Javier's hard power. The big problem here is the people would want Ulrich to rule the government, but even if she were the one to rule, she actually wouldn't be the one who has power. On the other hand, someone like Javier would have way more power than one would have intended. All of this leads to the idea of a global government being very messy and feel impossible. But let's shift gears and talk about the comments that do agree with Rosartrism. Here is a comment that is rated the highest, by Sadbringer. Again, you can read it for yourself while I summarize. The central idea here is the only bad thing about Rosartrism is humans just suck. But if one perseveres through that, then the pros drastically outweighs the cons. With everything under one government, it makes it more likely for all citizens to be treated with similar concern. But most importantly, if there is one government, there'd be no need for an arms race. This means there'd be less pressure for military research and a significantly higher pressure for humanitarian aid. I think it is difficult to understand this point of view without having the lived experience. This comment does state they live in a bad region, so the idea of Rosartrism can't be worse than what they are going through right now. I personally can't relate to this because I've been privileged, but I can imagine a bad region is something similar to what's going on in the Middle East or Africa. If my guess is right, then I can totally understand the desire of wanting new government. But more importantly, wanting lesser countries to be assimilated into a larger country and then benefit from development and safety is a great advantage, especially if the only thing the government asks for is subservience. If I'm completely honest, this is where there would be a rift between the ones who are privileged and the ones who are not. The ones who are in a first world country and the ones who are in a third world country. Rosartrism is so agreeable when you feel like there is no hope remaining within your own government. Whether your government is too corrupt, uncaring, or just straight up a dictatorship, I cannot in good conscience say Rosartrism is bad, even if it was advocated in real life. It's just too good of an ideal to waste away. It is filled with good intentions. The people who are suffering around the world should have that hope. But humanity just suck. If there was a way to bring people together and put aside their differences, I feel this would have already worked. But we know that even if we force change to happen, we lose something along the way, whether it be culture, history, or the people themselves. I personally feel that even if we are fractured, the common man does care for each other, even if we realistically can't do anything substantial. I want to close with this. The world tries its best to divide us, but I feel deep down, everyone just wants to have a sense of commonality. So never stop caring for each other. Be willing to come to an understanding when there is division and protect each other from things that sow discourse. Thank you, and I hope you learned something. If not, then I hope you were, at the very least, entertained.